In this project, we're going to complete this object shown here called the gasket design. I'm going to start a new drawing, and in my Create New Drawing dialog box, start from scratch, imperial, because my drawing is in inches. I need to format the units, so from the Format menu, Units, Decimal, and I'll choose 2 decimal places and say OK. I'm going to set my snap and grid. I'm going to right click on top of my grid and go to Settings, which will bring up my drafting settings. And I'm going to change the spacing on the grid to 1, and I'll hit Tab. It should fill in both. And I'll turn on my snap and grid and say OK. And in my utilities, I'm going to choose Zoom Extents, and that zooms me out to my drawing limits. To start my gasket, I'm going to get a line command, and I'm going to start this at 4, 6, and I'm looking at my coordinate readout down here, and I can see where it reads 4, 6. I'm going to click the mouse. Now I want horizontal and vertical lines, so I'm going to turn ortho on, and it forces me into vertical lines. So I'm going to move down until my Y coordinate reads 4. I'm going to go to the right until my X coordinate reads 5. I'm going to go down until my Y coordinate reads 1.5, and to the right until my X coordinate reads 12. At that point, I'm going to right click and hit Enter. I'm going to reset my drawing aids on the status bar, turning snap mode off and leaving grid and ortho on. On my quick access toolbar, I'm going to right click, go to Toolbars, AutoCAD, and turn on my Object Snap toolbar. And now I'll start a line that I want to snap to an endpoint. I'll snap to the endpoint right here, and I'm going to pull this line across until my X coordinate reads out close to 7. Left click the mouse to end that, right click and hit Enter. I'm now going to toggle my snap mode back on. I'm going to draw a circle, and this circle is going to be at 11.5 on the X and 6 on the Y, so I'll click the mouse there, and I'm going to move to the left until it reads 13.6, and I'll click again to set the radius at 1.5. I'm going to start another line. I'm going to come down on top of this line and find the point that's at 11.5 on the X and 1.5 on the Y. Click the mouse to start, and I'll turn ortho off because I want to come up here and be tangent to this circle. I'll use a tangent object snap. There I see my tangent snap. I'll click there, right click, and end the command. I'm now going to turn off my snap and grid so I don't have any of my drawing aids on, and close my object snaps. I'm going to use my extend command to extend this line over to meet the circle. I'll activate extend, and it wants me to select an object that will act as a boundary. So I click on the circle first, and then I'm going to right click to say I'm done selecting objects. Now it wants me to select the object to extend. I'll select this line. When I click on it, you see it extends to that chosen boundary. Next, I need to trim some lines, so I'm going to activate my trim command. And it asks me to select the cutting edges. I need to trim out part of this circle, so I want this line to be a cutting edge and this angled line to be a cutting edge. With those two edges chosen, I'm going to right click and say I'm done selecting objects. Now I can select the objects that I want to trim, and when I click on this, it trims it back to my cutting edges. I will choose this line segment and it cuts it back to that cutting edge. I'll right click and say Enter to end that command. We have a radius where this circle meets this line. I'm going to construct a tangent, tangent radius circle and trim off the extra. So it wants a tangent point. I'll pick one on this circle. I'll pick a tangent point on this line. And it wants a radius. I'm going to say 1 and hit enter. Now to trim this off, I'm going to activate my trim command, and this time I'm going to hit enter and let everything be a cutting edge. So that means that when I click, all of these edges are cutting edges, and I can trim that out. A quicker way to round the corners would be to use my fillet command. When I activate fillet, you'll notice down here on the command line it says that the radius is currently set for 0. So I need to right click and set the radius. My first corner has a radius of 0.75, and then I hit enter. I'm going to click this vertical and this horizontal line to round that corner, and you'll notice that my fillet command ends when I finish clicking on those two lines. I'm going to right click and repeat fillet, and again I need to reset the radius, this time to 0.25. I'll click on this horizontal and vertical line to round that corner. Currently my object consists of line segments and arc segments, and what I'd like to do is have all of these segments hooked together so I could work with them as one object. To do that, I can make them into a polyline. I'm going to use the flyout on the modify and use my edit polyline command. With that, it says to select a polyline. Well, I'm just going to select a regular line, and it asks me, it's not a polyline, do I want to turn it into one? And I say yes by hitting enter. Now, for my choices, I can right click and I want to join. So it wants me to select all the objects that I want joined together. So I'm going to pull a window around all of those objects so they're all selected and hit enter. And to end my polyline edit, I'm going to hit enter again. Now you'll notice that when I run my cursor over it, it lights up and acquires that as all one object. With this object having been converted to a polyline, when I use my offset command, and I'm going to set the offset distance to 0.5, when I click on my polyline, it will offset the whole object to the inside at exactly a distance of ½ an inch. We're going to take a moment at this time and look at some of the inquiry tools that we have available. You'll notice that on the Tools tab on the Inquiry panel, I have the ability to measure distances. So if I wanted to know what this distance was, and I'm using an object snap, it's telling me that on the Y it's exactly 2. Also, I can measure things like area. When I have polylines, I can just click on the object. So it says the first corner, rather than picking points, this is an odd-shaped object that would be difficult to find its area and perimeter. But I can right-click and select object. I'm going to click on the inside polyline, and here it tells me its area and its perimeter. I can also perform calculations. I'm going to right-click, say repeat area. This time I'm going to add another object, which is this outside line. Now I get the total area of the inside and the outside and the perimeter of the outside. If I just wanted to know the area of this in between the two, I can do a subtraction. I'm going to right click and I'm going to subtract an object, which is this inside polyline, and it tells me that the area of in between those two lines is right here. It's 12.48. So I can perform calculations and inquiry options about my objects, and polylines allow us to make these measurements on complex shaped objects. If I want to turn a polyline back into its individual line segments, I can use the explode command. This is on my modify tool panel, and I'm going to click on this inside polyline and then hit enter. Now you'll notice that when I run my mouse over it, it's made up of individual line segments and arc segments again, and it's no longer a polyline. We're now going to fillet this inside corner, so I'm going to start my fillet command, and I'm going to set the radius. I'll right click and say radius, set this to 0.5, and place a radius on this corner. We've now completed our gasket design, so I'm going to use the save on my quick access toolbar, and in my documents, in my ACAD projects, I'm going to save this as project 3 gasket design.